What's up, YouTube? All right, so we're getting into a new author for my contemporary lit and the body class. Her name is Leslie Feinberg. She is kind of heralded as this really progressive thinker, activist on sexual orientation, gender identification. She is identifies herself as a butch, which is an interesting kind of concept because I have tried or learned that kind of term is insulting, but it's not really insulting when an individual uses it to describe themselves. So she does use that term to describe herself, so we're going to use that. But that's a real key component of Stone Butch Blues, which is the novel we're going to read. Um, this video is about chapters 1 and 2, just kind of an introductory kind of thing. So we'll get right into it. The link for Stone Butch Blues is on her website. It's free. She made it free because she believes it's so important, and it is and it's really great that she did that. The book goes for like $200, like a copy hand or a hard copy print, which is crazy. But okay, so right in the introduction, she addresses the reader. She says, "Dear reader, I want to let you know that Stone Butch Blues is an anti-oppressions novel. As a result, it contains scenes of rape and other violence." I'm pretty sure there's another line after this that just says that it's not meant to be like a provocative idea just for the sake of being provocative, which is something that I've actually addressed like in my notes. So right on page 1, she's looking at me, but she doesn't see me. This is an epistolary form, so it means she's writing a letter to someone. Just in the first chapter, it's not the whole novel. She's looking at me, but doesn't see me. That's kind of, I would say, a basic quote. Where we don't ever really see anybody. I mean, we don't really see what's going on behind the scenes of anyone's mind, let alone someone that has a gender kind of background and thoughts that don't go with quote unquote normal mainstream ideologies about sexual orientation and gender. Page 2, we were changing all the he's to she's inside our heads to make it fit right. Well, she's talking about a song. And she's just kind of dancing with another woman who is in the letter, that like she knows this person. She's dancing with this person in a letter in a club, a gay club. I mean, that's the only kind of place that they can be anywhere near to what they believe themselves to be. I would believe. We were changing all the he's to she's in our heads, right? And it's kind of an introductory to a basic idea of we need to think about the he's and she's, what they mean as an individual identifying themselves as a he and she. I mean, in this instance, that she is talking about herself as a she, but the quote as a whole really gets into what does it mean to be a man or a woman. Page 3, fought hard, femme and butch, women and men together. This mean they're talking about in the club other individuals that kind of come into their space, like a police officer or just drunk sailor, and she quotes Ku Klux Klan like people. So at this point we're kind of in the minority, and she's kind of describing a oppressive or a unification of the oppressed people against kind of a higher authority. Yeah, so page 4. Did I survive? I guess I did, but only because I knew I might get home to you. This is kind of, she's talking about a couple brutal beatings that she's went through. In the chapter, there are kind of several different instances about law enforcement and other individuals just oppressing her in very derogatory and violent ways. And she gets away or she avoids directly talking about it, like descriptively describing these instances, kind of leaves it to the imagination. And as she's writing to this woman, which I also have an issue with, especially with the quote that's at the end of the letter. We'll talk about that then. Um, Page 5. I learned the difference between what I can't do and what I refuse to do, and this is specifically one of the times uh, a police officer has ordered her. I forget the situation. I think she's in a jail cell, but maybe not. But he's ordered her to perform oral sex on her, and she says this quote: "I learned the difference between what I can't do and what I refuse to do." And this is kind of a oppressive mindset or resistance to an oppressive kind of situation. Um, yeah, I think we all need to think about what we refuse to do and what we can't do, because they're very different things. Like saying I can't run a mile. Well, you can, but you just don't. Like, you just haven't worked up to it to even think about doing it, and it's kind of your fault. I mean, just in that sense. In that sense, I'm not saying that this is a that's kind of do it. But when people say what they can do and what they can't do, I always say you can do a lot of things, you just don't want to. At this point, I kind of write a little introductory to my an idea for a paper examining the necessity for provocative imagery. I won't really go into that right now. Um, so, chapter 2, starting at chapter 2. Wait. Okay, so I'll just talk about it. Apparently, I don't have it in my quotes, but it's probably one of the most important things of the novel. Oh, it's in my paper. Okay, so a quote that says, "I'm remembering the nights I fucked you slow and deep, and the sky was just this color." So throughout the entire letter in the beginning, she has avoided kind of using not derogatory, but provocative imagery, just kind of to save the individual that she's writing to kind of the hurt of what would happen if they understood what their loved one went through. And I think we can all kind of agree with the idea of that, to save another person's either feelings or just you don't want them to know how much you've hurt. But then she says this quote in the end: "I'm remembering the nights I fucked you slow and deep, and the sky was just this color." Something just kind of came into my mind. It's kind of a more of a personal thing with her and him, or her and her, but it's when you write an epistolary novel, especially in this, or just in this case, the reader is reading it. So if you were worried about, I guess she seems that the sexual part of it isn't what she's worried about. It's more being forced to do these sexual acts. I'd have to think about it a little more. I kind of had an idea before just reading it right now, I guess. Okay, but we'll go in the chapter 2. Page 7. Quote: "I didn't want to be different. I longed to be everything grown-ups wanted so they would love me." So we're kind of changing who we are inside to fit the world. And this is a very different time. I think at this time it's 1950. And her family life obviously is not the best. There's a lot of pushback from her parents for her to be very, very different. So she kind of wants society to change more than she wants to be different, I would say. Sorry, this like camera is kind of messing me up. But then when she was born, my mother admitted she was afraid to touch me, right? And throughout the kind of what we've read, there is a constant reoccurrence of the need for and the lack of touch. So kind of I mean, that's definitely something that we're going to look through in the novel is touch, lack of touch, what the touch means, what kind of bond that creates, what kind of clothes you wear, like what that touch means on your clothes. And so I grow in two worlds, immersed in the music of two languages. One world was Wheaties and Milton Berle. The other was fry, bread, and sage. One was cold, but it was mine. The other was warm, but it wasn't. So she's talking about a Native American couple, I believe, family at the end of the hall or at the other side of the hall that she goes to sometimes. And the parents are, she learns a different language there, and her parents here, there's just a conflicting cultures right across the hall, right? And one is not her own, one is not her biological family, but it's more accepting and more uh, obviously productive to build a proper individual. Um, we were warned to treat the bomb like strangers. Don't make eye contact. If you can't see the bomb, it can't see you. I think this is kind of a narrative, um, just plug to say either, I mean, clearly she's talking about herself, the societal perception of herself, the way that she thinks other people view her if you don't see them, or maybe she's talking about herself towards other people. If she can't see the hate that she's, uh, if she can't see the hate, then it's not there. I don't think that's what it says because she acknowledges a lot of kind of negative aspects of her life. Um, Page 11, I thought World War II had been fought at the plant. She's talking about her family's, her dad's um, job, occupation. And it kind of shows how much of a microcosm her world is. How, I mean, continuously the family references the civil rights movement, and but it doesn't concern them. Like, that's what they say when information kind of like that comes up. It doesn't concern them. It's not what, it's not their world. So this microcosm that's just a destructive, self-imploding, I would say, uh, negative, backwards family life, almost in every sense of the word, is her entire world. So, I mean, it's really difficult to, especially at this age. I think at this point she's around 10, um, to be productive. I mean, to be positive or have a beneficial outlook on life. Um, Quote, nature held me close and seemed to find no fault with me. So at this point, this is a really interesting quote because women are referred to as nature, especially in literature, but in real life too. I mean, women select partners. They give birth. I mean, what is more natural or nature-like? I guess I don't want to say natural, but nature-like than producing a life. And she kind of what was this part? I want to go back to it. Okay, so this quote, it's kind of the biggest thing that my kind of academic pursuits really care about. But this quote really comes after she is at the ASPCA kind of um, refuge section where she can see the dogs through the cage. She's not supposed to be there, but uh, she asks the same question to this dog. Uh, are you a boy or a girl? Like, this question has come up a lot in these two chapters. And for me, it constructed a human, so a hierarchy. Like a humans are at the top. Femme and Butch, I think, are seen as other at this point. So they're in the middle. But then she acknowledges that she asked this question. Like, she hates this question. she's acknowledged that there is something when it's asked to her, the individuals um, quote never questioning their right to ask, right? So she's acknowledging that they have the power at this point to ask her that because they're part of a normal part of society rather than femme and butch, right? So when she asked this dog this question, we're clearly putting animals at the bottom of the hierarchy. But then the quote at the end of the paragraph, nature held me close and seemed to find no fault with me, right? So I'm saying she finds power in asking this question that she hates being asked of herself onto this dog. Um, and I'm kind of I mean, animal rights are something very important to me. Ideological, my ideology of animals is attempting to be positive, I guess. But when she finds this power, like in asking this question to this dog, that establishes her space in nature for her, I think. And I guess I'll read it. If establishing a form of oppression is the only form of power that nature can give to a being, then an established socio-economical system like the one that Leslie herself disdains, the cops, children's, her parents, is the only sustaining model of a civilized society humans can take. And I don't think we can get away from power hierarchies in any kind of form in any society. But it's interesting that when she questions or is so oppressed herself that she doesn't question kind of her place with these animals, right? Because animals are the unspoken um, minority. I mean, they can't speak. So when we have to be very careful with what we do to animals. And obviously, I don't think we've done very well just on the massive waste that is accumulated from the food industry. Kind of makes me want to read The Jungle again, which is right here. But so that's what I got out of that. It really isn't anything like in the novel at all at this point, like the kind of animal. I mean, there's nothing about animals at this point. So I'll just keep going on. So page 13, I made a muscle and told him to feel it. Then I punched him in the nose. He ran away crying. I felt great for the first time in days. So she had been brutally beat up by these kids and kind of thrown away into this coal mine, or not coal mine, but like shaft. And then she kind of gets revenge when this kid's by himself and he's um, and she punches him. And this is another point of power hierarchies is she really enjoys being in this physical uh, situation that she can dominate in. And I think at this point in the novel, she's really happy at exhibiting these powers. So I really think there's a disconnect there with what um, she wants to do or she wants to convey. I don't know, but um, the thing with her mom on the same page is, quote, you were showing him your muscle. I froze, wondering how much she had seen. She smiled. Sometimes it's better to let boys think they're stronger. Just plain. Okay, I messed up the quote there. But sometimes it's better to let boys think they're stronger. And I assume she said something to like, and I just thought she was just plain crazy if she really believed that. Um, Right. So this is 1950, around the time. So she's young. Obviously, she doesn't really deal much with the ideology of domination of power hierarchies and things like that. But I would argue that submitting to this power hierarchy based or solely on physical confrontations um, doesn't help anything. I mean, it really just shows that you have more physical power at one point rather than being right or wrong. Like I said, this is I think it's kind of nitpicking at this point, but power hierarchies are obviously very evident in the novel and basically civilized society anyway. But um, So page 14, everyone in my family knew about shame and fear. That's kind of a for the families, it's like you're miserable because you keep making yourself miserable and you're a negative and you just look at the world really bad. You fear other cultures. You institute, you commit your daughter to an institution when you find her tying on or trying on the suit and tie of the father. And that's not really something I get into, but it's obvious it's a big part of the last 6 pages. But I didn't really think there was a lot in it because I think it's kind of a regular reaction to commit. Like you kind of would expect, I think, that parents, the way they're portrayed and what they do, to commit their daughter. And she comes out of it very understanding that she's alone, that she is not part of this family that is hers, does not support her in the way that she needs it. So she kind of takes it upon herself to uh, create her own agency, I would say. Uh, so the last quote I have is, "Now I didn't want to change. I just wanted people to stop being mad at me all the time." That's before she was committed. Um, yeah, there's these transformations that she kind of has where she realizes something different, something different, something different, and but like I said, at the end, she's realizing she's alone. Okay, so I'm gonna be making as many videos as I can today. So I'll try because I want to get a lot of this off of my table behind it, my computer, because it's kind of getting filled up with videos I want to make. So if you see me wearing this shirt a lot, that's why. Like I said, this is the first 2 chapters. I will leave a link for the book um, in the description. And all right, I'll see you guys next time.